Welcome back to AEW Change the World. The second episode is booked and ready to run, so let's get straight into it. So we open with a video package. I don't know why it's put him on screen, but that's who it's rated on. The show opens with a look back at the debut episode of Tuesday Night Dynamite. It looks at 4 key things: Hangman Page's upset victory over Pac, Britt Baker becoming the first ever AEW Women's World Champion, Chris Jericho's interaction and disrespect that he showed to Joey Ryan, and the All Elite showcase in the main event, which was won by the Elite. The commentators then introduce the show, leading into a graphic which displays the Tag Team Championship Tournament bracket. That should be on your screen right now. Into the first match of that tournament, the Young Bucks defeat Guevara and Kiss in 8 minutes and 43 seconds with a Meltzer driver. Sonny Kiss the weak link, but Sammy Guevara is continuing to put in pretty good performances, and of course we know what to expect from Nick and Matt Jackson. A 61C match, I'm pleased with that as the opening match of the tournament. After the match, Nick and Matt Jackson are interviewed by Alex Marvez, who should be on screen. They tell him that's how you kick off a tournament, and after briefly putting over the opponents that they just beat, Nick and Matt suggest that the bar for the tournament has been set, and they're calling on the 6 other teams to try and match it, and if they want to become the tag team champions, to raise it. The commentators then put over the main event of the night. This starts a hard sell job throughout the night of SCU v the OWE Stronghearts. None of them really huge stars, but we wanted to put it as the main event because I think it can be a good match. So hopefully we can hype enough that it'll keep people interested and it won't hurt our TV rating too much in the end, not having those draws in the main event. Turning from the break, the commentators introduced footage from last week. Britt Baker defeated Bea Priestley to become the World Women's Champion. Tessa Blanchard then made her AEW debut and set her eyes on the first AEW Women's World Champion. Alex Marvez this time is shown on screen. He interviews Britt Baker. Baker refuses to talk about Tessa Blanchard or Ivelisse Velez, saying that she isn't worried about the other women in AEW because she has something that none of them have. As she raises the AEW Women's World Championship over her head, Brandy Rhodes walks into the interview area. Brandy congratulates her and tells her to focus on being the best champion she can be, because the rest of it is up to her. Brandy Rhodes is going to find the best challengers from all around the world. She makes it clear that people won't be giving shots just for showing up, making it clear that to become the one contender, everyone will have to learn it in the ring. That includes Ivelisse Velez and Tessa Blanchard. We're just putting over that Brandy still has her matchmaking power. Cody and the Young Bucks gave theirs up to become normal members of the roster at All Out. They did this because they wanted to be eligible for AEW titles. This just establishes that at least for now, Brandy won't be able to compete for the AEW Women's World Champion because she is still in a position of power. We'll then get a dark abandoned warehouse setting for a video package introducing a group known as The Fringe. Priscilla Kelly and Darby Allin stand front and centre with Jimmy Havoc behind them. They say that they've heard that AEW is for everybody, but they don't think anybody is ready for what they're going to bring to AEW. There's not a lot of characters in AEW in the sense of larger-than-life types. These are still like quite grounded, realistic type characters, but they're outside of different personalities. It's just put over by giving them a different introduction to other people. Most people just come in to have matches, whereas we're just giving them a quick vignette to put them over before they do. Priscilla Kelly then makes her debut, a 40 rated match, that's not too bad. Santana Garrett gets a 40 as well. A terrible match apparently. I thought 40 is not too bad. Santana Garrett defeats Priscilla Kelly. I do see a lot in Priscilla in the future, but Santana Garrett I think can be a key figure straight away, as shown by her getting 6 better. It's not, it's not significantly more, but it's enough that she's somebody we can build up, I think, to be one of the top faces in the division. After the match, she stands tall celebrating. We're just trying to get her over as a likeable face. We then see a video sent in from Joey Ryan. It was on his social media throughout the week. He responds to the disrespect Chris Jericho showed him. He puts over that he was a huge fan of Chris Jericho's work, but admits that the saying, "never meet your heroes," has proved true. Joey then takes some pot shots at Chris Jericho, basically implying that he's having a midlife crisis and people know him more for his egomaniac ramblings than what he does in the ring these days. Again, we're putting over Chris Jericho's perception as somebody who the roster do look up to, but the issue is the manner in which he carries himself. Ryan's obviously trying to get under the skin of Jericho as well, just looking for a reaction like the one he got last week. But of course, having Chris Jericho's attention, deep down, Joey Ryan will be pleased with this. This next segment further establishes the relationship between Cody and MJF. It's a dynamic that we want to flesh out quite early on because it is going to be important in storylines going forward. So Cody just makes way to the ring, says a few words about his protege and introduces him ahead of his match with Matt Cross. MJF has an earnest smile on his face and shakes hands with Cody as he enters the ring. We then get Matt Cross's debut. He got a great rating for his straight edge gimmick. A decent match with not much heat. Matt Cross defeated MJF in 11:46 with a death from above. Both of them doing pretty well, a 54 and a 51 and a 55 match overall, so that's pretty good. Happy with that. The booking of the match was a showcase of Matt Cross. That's not to say that MJF didn't get any offense in, but again, we're putting over the debuting star. After the match, Cross celebrates and leaves the ring, and MJF is losing his cool, having lost his first match on Tuesday Night Dynamite. Cody looks to enter the ring to calm him down. When Joey Janela comes out from the crowd making his return from injury, he wants his hands on MJF. Cody spots him and manages to hold him back and tells Joey Janela to get to the back. MJF wants his hands on Joey Janela just as much as Joey Janela wants his hands on MJF, but Cody manages to calm both of them down. Joey gets escorted to the back. Cody then returns to the ring, giving his mentorship and advice to the furious MJF. This brings Joey Janela back into the fold, and he's cleared to compete. There's also a bit of a sign of arrogance from Cody, who's fairly dismissive of Joey Janela. Closing the first hour, we're looking to hook people in for the second hour of the show by showing Chris Jericho arriving at the building. He confronts a cameraman who is filming him and aggressively demands that he follows him. Jericho then makes his way to the locker room, opening the door. The first person he comes across is Jungle Boy, who he grabs by his shirt. He tells him to find Joey Janela and tell him to get his ass to the ring if he has something to say to the GOAT. Jericho then shoves Jungle Boy down before storming off again. So we return to the second hour of the show. The commentators discuss the incident before the break when Chris Jericho demanded Joey Ryan get to the ring. This leads into footage from last week, just recapping the slap that Chris Jericho gave Joey Ryan and the verbal spikes that they threw at each other. Joey Ryan then comes out, having been called out by Chris Jericho. He's sort of confused as why he's there. He plays to the crowd, he's sort of shrugging. When he's halfway down the ramp, Jericho runs out and hits him from behind with a cheap shot. This drops Joey Ryan to the ground. Jericho then stands over him, looking disgusted to even have to share the arena with him. When backstage personnel come out to escort Jericho away, he voluntarily backs away. He's not looking to continue the attack. He's just made his point. He demands a microphone before he leaves and points at Joey Ryan as he's led away. He furiously suggests that people like Ryan have no place in AEW. So a C+ there. That's going to help us in our overall at the end, I think. Joey Ryan didn't look good while Chris Jericho looked a star, which is kind of the storyline, but obviously we don't want anybody not looking good. I've not put this as a storyline yet, which is annoying, but again, Chris Jericho was good, working the crowd. Again, we're putting Chris Jericho over as the self-anointed gatekeeper of what AEW should be. You know, he's sort of above the law. Nobody else is engaging in these post-match attacks or these sort of unruly actions, but Chris Jericho obviously can get away with it given the star power that he is. If Joey Ryan was going around pushing staff and bullying other members of the locker room, we might see some recourse, but Chris Jericho at the moment seems to be above all that. We then get the commentators breaking up the show. They talk about Nick and Matt Jackson's victory in the opening match of the night. They advance to the semi-finals of the tag team tournaments. They then talk through the rest of the bracket, promoting particularly the main event, which will feature as the next match in the tournament. In the fourth match, we get another solid performance from Madison Eagles. She defeats Kylie Ray in 5 minutes 53 with a heaven sent. Madison Eagles' debut performance was so good that I wanted to capitalise on it quickly, and she's going to get a strong push now going forward. I've been a big fan of what I've seen from her, but delivering so well in the game so early on, I think that Yuka Sakazaki v Madison Eagles will soon be capable of main eventing an episode, so I'm thinking that that might be our first female main event. Very happy with her again. After the match, she stands tall. The commentator's putting over Madison's back-to-back victories while passing comment on the increasingly worrying losing streak of Kylie Ray. Continuing to try and put over the main event, we have Shima, who sent in a Japanese promo which is captioned about El Lindemann and Takahiro Yamamura. He puts them over as two of the top young stars in Japan as well as in OWE and promotes their chances of advancing to the next round of the tag team tournament. In the next match, we get two more debuts. Tessa Blanchard defeating Heidi Katrina in 7:39 with a pile driver. I'm going to have to change that because I'm not a fan of a pile driver just being used in the middle of a card as a throwaway move, although it does win the match. 38 and a 36. Heidi Katrina actually doing better than Tessa Blanchard, which is surprising. Tessa Blanchard really off her game though. It's a 40 D-, so it's not too bad of a match, but that is, again, it's an underperformance from somebody who I really expected to be doing better. Nonetheless, it's a win, so hopefully we can give her some momentum and she can be doing better than that pretty soon. Otherwise, some pushes are going to have to be changed because I've clearly not seen the talent in the people who actually have the talent in the game. After the match, Tessa Blanchard celebrates in the ring, standing tall. So we come back from the break and the commentators introduce an incident which took place during it. Footage showed Tessa Blanchard on the stage. She was preparing for a post-match interview with Alex Marvez, but she was interrupted by Ivelisse Velez. Velez confronted Blanchard and an argument broke out between the two. As things threatened to spill over into violence, the decision was made to call off the interview and the two women were led to the back. We then get a video package promoting Kenny Omega, just showing footage of him winning the championship as well as pinning Frankie Kazarian last week on the show. This leads into an in-ring interview with Kenny Omega. Alex Mavis stands in the ring, introducing the AEW Men's World Champion. Kenny Omega is joined by Hangman Page and Marty Scurll, his fellow Elite members. He's asked about his first challenge and responds by putting over the importance of wins and losses in AEW. Page and Marty Scurll look to talk, but they're cut off. Cody comes out in a suit, joined by an also suited MJF. Cody says he didn't get the chance to congratulate Kenny properly when he won the title, and so he does that now. Throughout, Marty keeps his eyes firmly on MJF. Kenny says that he hopes Cody can prove himself in the AEW ring, as he'd love to face him for the title further down the line. The two shake hands, but this leads to the music of Pac hitting. Pac's in a typically awful mood, and he tells the Elite members in the ring that he's already sick of this little loving. He vows to tear the group apart one by one. When Pac has successfully taken out every single one of them, he will get another chance to beat Kenny Omega, and this time he'll walk away as AEW Men's Champion. Again, we've got a hell of a lot of notes here. Kenny doing well, a few of them doing well, a few of them not doing well. Continuing a couple of storylines, and I think that's our second best segment of the night, 72B-, can't complain with that. So let's move forward. We then get the commentators looking forward to the main event, promoting it as the second match in the AEW World Tag Team Championship Tournament. This leads into footage from earlier in the night when the Young Bucks defeated Sonny Kiss and Sammy Guevara. They then talk about the situation regarding Impact's LAX, with an update coming next week. A 66C+ about that as decent wrestling but little heat. Again, I'm struggling to build heat, possibly because I've got so many segments that are getting such bad ratings, but SCU defeated El Lindaman and Takahiro Yamamura when Chris Daniels defeated El Lindaman with the last rites. Thank God for Christopher Daniels, because he carried the match in terms of in-ring performance, and I don't think I've seen a carry job like that before. 48, 47, 28 and 80. Takahiro Yamamura was the weak link, struggling to keep up. I think he's got like 6 overness in the USA, so that explains it, while El Lindaman has managed to get to like 34 somehow. I don't know why. Kaz and Daniels have great chemistry. The other two don't click. You got the fans buzzing. They're through to the semi-finals of the AEW Tag Team Tournaments. They're standing tall. Scorpio Sky joins them in the ring to celebrate, with the commentators putting over next week's show, which will feature another huge night in the AEW Tag Team Championship Tournament. So there it is, a 68C+ rating, fulfilling all our broadcaster requirements, as episode 2 of Tuesday Night Dynamite is in the can. We learned that SCU and the Young Bucks have advanced to the semi-finals of the AEW Tag Team Championship Tournament. Chris Jericho really does have a problem with Joey Ryan, and that there will be no shortage of suitors to the AEW Men's and Women's World Championships going forward. With that said, we move on to the next episode, episode 3 coming very, very soon.